Welcome to Pink Conversations with your girl, Tameka Bright. Empower, inform, inspire, all to reach purpose. What's it all about? Well, grab a snack, take a seat, and tune in. You can't miss Pink Conversations. It's your girl, Tameka Bright. Let's get ready for our Royal Empowerment. It's up next. But until then, jam out with me. Let's go. It's Pink Conversations with Tameka Bright. Let's get ready for our Royal Empowerment for today. It is coming from 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 13. Again, that's 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 13. And you know I always read to you the Amplified version. Well, today I'm going to read both versions. I'm going to read the King James version and the Amplified version. And this definitely goes along with our pink topic for today. Our Royal Empowerment, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. And it reads, "There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it." That was the King James version. And let's go on over to the Amplified version. I just got to make sure you get this. And the Amplified version is good. It really breaks it down to the get down. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 13. "No temptation, regardless of its source, has overtaken or enticed you, that it is not common to human experience, nor is any temptation unusual or beyond human resistance. But God is faithful to his word. He is compassionate and trustworthy, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability to resist. But along with the temptation, he has the past, and he has in the past and is now and will always provide a way out as well, so that you will be able to endure it without yielding and will overcome temptation with joy." That was your Royal Empowerment for today. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 13. I read for you from the King James version, and I also read from the Amplified version because I wanted to make sure that you got it right. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It is Monday, and I hope your weekend was well. I had a good weekend. I did, much of nothing, so which is always good, right? Got to send a very special happy birthday out to my godmother, Miss Sandra Tootle. She just turned 70 over the weekend, and also Miss Myrtle Downing of James City turned 70 as well. So, the Bible says, what is that? 3 scores, 10 and 3 scores. So, hey, shout outs to you ladies for turning 70, and they don't even look it. So that's even better. Now, that's my goals, right? Now, those are some true goals to have. I'm excited about today's topic. I always say I'm super excited because I am. It's a topic that I feel like is needed. And there are actually 2 topics that I was working on. And so I asked God, I'm like, which one should I do this week? And it turned out that I saw a Facebook post from a young lady that I know who's a first-time mom and who's young, and she posted how she didn't realize that postpartum depression, from pregnancy goes so long after the pregnancy. And so that's when I felt like, okay, this topic was definitely needed. Our pink topic for today is Pampers, Teethingn, and college. Yes, because it goes by just that fast, right? So this is a real empowerment for motherhood. This is a motherhood conversation, and not to take away anything from the fathers out there, but I can only speak from the point of view of being a mom, and I can only speak from a point of view of being a first-time mom. But whether you are a first-time mom or a seasoned mom, I feel that this show is definitely for you. So thanks again for tuning in. So I'm going to take you through my pregnancy. I found out that I was pregnant on my job. But I knew I was pregnant because, you just had that feeling, just something wasn't right. I'd missed my cycle that first day, and I knew. I'm like, okay, something is wrong. So I bought a test. Actually bought 3 of them. because I took it 3 times, yes, and it was definitely that I was pregnant. So moving on, I was still coaching, and in fact, I actually picked up a Little League coaching squad in addition to my college coaching squad. And I remember, like, further on down in the pregnancy, I was still doing the cartwheels and the forward rolls and still trying to stunt and all that, and my girls would always try to make me sit down. But that first trimester, as always, but it was difficult. I was having a lot of morning sickness, off the chain, ladies. And also I was doing a lot of spotting, so I had to take it, I had to take it easy. But this morning sickness thing, you guys know that it's not just morning. It could go all day long. You could smell something wrong and it just triggers it, right? So I couldn't do anything sweet. You guys know that I love my sweets. I love my gummy bears. I love my M&Ms. But I couldn't do any of that, which is a good thing because, during your pregnancy, they test you for gestational diabetes. You got to take this nasty liquid stuff. And they did that. And I'm so glad that I wasn't into my sweets while I was pregnant like I am now, because that probably would have been a bad thing. So my first trimester, I had to take it really easy. Then afterwards, when I got the all clear, then I go back to doing the cartwheels and everything that I had no business doing, right? So around 26 weeks, I went into premature labor. Very, devastated at the time because I didn't know what was happening to me. I just knew I felt a lot of pain. And it was this particular day I was at work. I left work early because I wasn't feeling well. And I was like, well, I'm just going to just try to head home. And something was like, no, you go to this restaurant here and try to get something to eat. And I know that was nothing but the Holy Spirit. Walk into the restaurant, order the food, can't really eat it. I'm in a lot of pain. So I called my doctor and she's like, you need to come in immediately. But I'm not able to drive because I'm hurting so bad at this point. And I told you it was nothing but God who told me to go to that restaurant, because how about I'm in the restaurant, I'm in pain, and I didn't know this, but 3 of my cheerleaders were already inside the restaurant. So they ended up taking me to the hospital, left my car where it was. They took me to the hospital, which was like on the other side of town. Had to call my husband. He had to rush off work to get to the hospital, not knowing. It was like a whirlwind. Everything was just going so fast. Wasn't sure what was going on. One of my girls, shout out to Teethingn, she graduated like 2 years ago. But she came back in the emergency room with me. She stayed with me an entire time until my husband was able to get there. And they were doing all types of tests and just all crazy stuff. And I'm not knowing what's going on. So finally they tell me, what's going on, what happens, that the baby was trying to come, and I needed to take this medicine that they had given me, and I needed to make sure that I was drinking a lot of water. I stayed in there for a couple of hours on IV and everything. This is right around the time for Thanksgiving. So I was getting ready to travel to Maryland to go see my brother for Thanksgiving, and I was excited about that because I hadn't seen him in like 3 years for Thanksgiving, because we had just gotten married 3 years to that point. And so this would have been my first time being with my side of the family for Thanksgiving. So I was so excited to get there and then have the doctor tell me, well, you can't go. We can't let you travel. You got to stay put, So that was very devastating for me. And I know my sister-in-law, when she got pregnant, she was actually on bed rest for up until her, from 5 months on. She was on bed rest. So, I complained about being on that for a couple of weeks, and here she was on that for about 4 or 5 months. But anyway, fast forwarding, my original due date was February 17th. Now, those that know my husband, y'all know he's into wrestling, and that time is around the state finals for wrestling. So my husband was trying to do everything he could to make sure that his son came before those state finals so that he and his son could go. Then they pushed it up to February the 14th, which wasn't any better because that's around regionals. So finally, before all of that, I had my baby shower, and my friend of mine told me something that didn't even cross my mind. She told me something that I didn't even think about, during my pregnancy. And I'm going to tell you what that is next, along with giving you the random facts and doing way too much. You're listening to Pink Conversations, and I'm Tameka Bright. It's Pink Conversations with your girl, Tameka Bright. It's time for our random facts because, well, they're so random. And I've got 3 good ones for you today. The most common answer on Jeopardy was, what is China? And that was the most common answer from 1984 to 2012. And it was the correct answer for 216 times. So when all else fails, just say, what is China, right? And the first professional football league in America was actually called the National Football League, which NFL, which it is now. But it was nothing like what we know now. It only lasted for 1 season, which was back in 1902. And it featured a mix of football players and baseball players. And finally, Isaac Hayes was the first African-American to win an Oscar for something other than acting. You remember the theme song from Shaft, right? Shut your mouth. Yeah, he won that back in 1971. Just some random facts, just because they're so random. Back to our pink topic for today is Pampers, Teethingn, and college. This is a real empowerment for motherhood, a motherhood conversation. And I titled it that because it happens like that so fast. It's like 1 minute they're in Pampers, the next they're Teethingn, and then before you know it, they're in college. You got all that stuff in between, but it just goes by that fast. So I was telling you that I had my baby shower, and if you go to a baby shower, it can be very exciting. If you're having a baby shower, it can be very exciting. But for me, it was a little overwhelming. There was a lot of stuff and a lot of things, My best friend, shout out to my bestie, who threw the baby shower for me. Still a little salty, she threw a Chicago Bears theme, and I'm a Redskins fan, but it's all good, My husband is a Chicago Bears fan. And the cake was amazing. I love me some cake. And I actually was able to eat some of it then. So by that time, I think I was almost, because my baby shower was in December, and I ended up having him in January. So I was almost done. So I could do a little bit. You best believe I got the cake. But anyway, she told me, she said, when you had his baby shower, that's when it's really going to get real. That's when everything is really going to sink in. And I really didn't know what she meant by that until the next day. I was sitting in my living room, and I was looking at all the stuff. And I remember going, OMG, I'm about to have a kid. And amongst all the stuff that we've got, there's no manual. There's no instructions. It's like you've got a kid coming and there you go. And I looked at all the things that you've got to put together, the crib and the strollers and the car seat. I'm like, the car seat, how does this even work? So she was so right. And that's something now that I tell first-time moms. I'm like, it's going to get real when you had that baby shower, because it definitely got real for me. And, wanting to go out and buy all the stuff and all the clothes. And one thing I did learn is not buying so much clothes, because they just grow so fast. It's like they didn't even get to wear that outfit. But again, things that I know for next time, but didn't really know now. So moving on, they decided that they were going to induce my labor. So I went in on January 26th, which was a Monday. And can I tell you, now I've always been the type to make sure that I have my nails done, my hair done, my eyebrows done. Like, that's just me. I remember every time I moved to a different city, the first thing I had to find is a hair store and a Dairy Queen. Don't judge. I love my ice cream. But to me, those things are important. High maintenance, call it what you will. That's me. That's what I like. I always used to say I worked so many jobs then so I could support the lifestyle that I like to have. But the day that I actually went into the hospital to get my nails done, the nail salon was really busy, so I couldn't. And little did I know that would be the first time of many that I wouldn't be able to get my nails done. I've got your doing way too much story for the week. It involves a 71,000 Corvette story and getting away on foot. That's coming up next. You're doing way too much. Plus your college spotlight and more Pampers, Teethingn in college on Pink Conversations. Welcome back. It's Pink Conversations with your host, Tameka Bright, on WYTV7, Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to send a shout out to all of my broadcasters on WYTV7, and be sure you check out my girl Tanya Simpson's show. Her show is Sipping the Tea with T. Simpson. Now, this is the best tea that you're going to sip. I promise you. It airs on Monday nights at 7 p.m. on WYTV7, Spreaker.com. Just type in Sipping the Tea with T. Simpson. Time for our doing way too much story for the week. I told you it involved a $71,000 Corvette and getting away on foot. Well, a guy decides that he was going to steal a car, not just any car, but he was going to steal a $71,000 Corvette. Well, of course he gets caught, and instead of getting in the Corvette to get away from the police, he decides he was going to outrun the police because, he can run faster than a Corvette could probably get away from the police. But anyway, that's what he did. Of course he was caught. Why, oh why, oh why? You can't afford it, don't take it, right? And I got another one for you. I was like, I want to do this one too, because this is definitely doing too much. So those fidget spinners, they're real big now, and they just came out of nowhere, right? Okay, well, how much would you spend for a fidget spinner? They're normally about $5 to maybe the more fancy smancy ones would be about $12. Well, how about there is a fidget spinner for $16,700? Yeah, you heard me right. Some of y'all just kind of hit your brakes like, what? Yeah, $16,700. It's made out of 100 grams of solid gold. And that's it. So I'm thinking, what else do I get? And what else does it do? I mean, for $16,000 just because it's pure gold? okay, I'd rather just pocket that money. But you know what I always say? If you got $16,700 to spend on a fidget spinner, then you need to email me at spiritandsparkle16@gmail.com, and I'll let you know where you can put that $16,700. Those were your doing way too much stories for the week. I gave you 2 of them. You're listening to Pink Conversations with Tameka Bright, and this is Pampers, Teethingn, and College. So now I told you about my baby shower, and I told you that they had to induce me, and I went in on that Monday the 26th. Well, you know, he wasn't having it. He wasn't trying to come. So unexpectedly, they come in on that Wednesday morning and say, we're going to have to do a cesarean. So I'm like, okay. I was scared to death because was not expecting to be cut open, and you know, you just kind of come in and drop that on somebody like, okay, well, you were going to have it naturally, but now we're just going to have to cut you and just take them out. That was really I don't even know the word for it, but yeah, I was scared. I was definitely scared. And you got to get it done, right? So got there, got through all of that, and let me tell you, when I first laid eyes on my Timothy Lewis Bright Jr., TJ as we call him, I remember I just broke into tears, and I just started thanking God for him. And I remember saying, like, I can't believe he came for me. I remember saying that because I couldn't. So now I'm home, and this happened. Our first night home, and I'll share that with you next, along with our Speak On It topic. The Speak On It topic was so good, and you guys answered, and your college spotlight is coming up next. It's Pink Conversations with Tameka Bright. Hey, it's Pink Conversations with Tameka Bright. Pampers, Teethingn, and College, because it just goes by that fast, right? This is the motherhood conversation, a real empowerment for motherhood. Now, we had our Speak On It topic, and I love you guys because you respond, and I love it. The question was, you just wrote a book about motherhood. Name a chapter you would write about. And I got a lot of responses here, and I promise you I'm going to get through all of them. Latasha Bags from New Bern, her title would be 24/7 Full-Time Job. Miss Frances Moore from Jacksonville, North Carolina, she said The Meltdown. My bestie out of Atlanta, Trish L'Oreal, said, these are the breaks. Now, some of y'all responses were really, really funny. Michelle Forbes from New Bern said, The First Year. Miss Chartice Hickman, this was one of the funny ones to me. Chartice, I know that this she's originally from the Havelock area, and I think she's in Greensboro right now, but hers was middle school. One of us might not make it. Some people chimed in. It was like, yes. Shanti from Radford, Virginia said yes. Maria said yes. This has to be a book all by itself. Pia Duncan from Raleigh, North Carolina, she said endurance. And Miss Kanisha from right here from Fayetteville, hers was funny too. Hers was Teen Hell Angels. Who sent you and why are you here? My sister-in-law from Maryland was, why am I tired? Miss Tina Russell from Atlanta, enough is enough. And Miss Carrie Armstrong was, Lord, guide my steps. And I really like that. Miss Aisha Martinez from New Bern said, long days and short nights. Miss Kim Wanovich, hey, Miss Wanovich from Fayetteville, this too shall pass. I like that. And Nicole from Wilmington, big sis, shout outs. Hers was, can I stop now? I got some more. There were more who chimed in for our Speak On It topic. But I'm going to be honest with y'all. Some of y'all titles scared me. I was like, okay, if I didn't already have a kid, I'd be a little scared to have one. And then knowing that some of the people who responded, their kids are older, it's like, man, this is what I got to look forward to. But all in all, I think if I had to write a title, it would definitely be about the memories and the moments to cherish to cherish every last one of them, because you only get them once. So yes, there's the good and yes, there's the bad. But I say you cherish them all, because you can't appreciate the highs and the joys without the struggles or adjustments, right? So I think my chapter will be somewhere along that. Okay, so the first night that I brought my baby home, so I was one of those parents who didn't want to do the pacifier thing. You know, I was like, no, don't want my child to have a passy. I don't want him to be able to take it out his mouth and talk and put it back in. Well, I didn't do too well with that. That first night he was home, I tore up that house looking for that pacifier. You hear me? Because I called myself hiding it so that I wouldn't use it. Oh, no, no, no. In the hospital, it was like he was a perfect angel. He didn't cry. It was great. I was like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. I know y'all laughing at me, right? Yeah, so... Speaking of in the hospital, I remember my big sis, Felica. She came to see me in the hospital, and I was so, first of all, I thought that once I had him, my stomach would go back down. That's number one. So I was disappointed about that. I remember telling the doctor that she needed to go back in because I felt like something else was in there. No, I'm real serious. That was number one. And then I felt like I'd be able to just hop up and do what I needed to do. That cesarean takes a lot out of you. And it wasn't like that. And I was so disappointed. And I remember Felica coming to see me, and she was like, what you think, you Superwoman? She was like, no, you've got to give your body a chance to rest. You know, you can't do it all. You are a mom now. You know, it's going to be some adjustments, but you can do this, and it's going to be okay. So, but then I was just so like, what do you mean? And I thought it was just going to go down like that. And I thought I was just going to be able to hop out of the bed and go and do. And that did not happen. So I remember fast forwarding now, calling my spiritual mom, Miss Angela Scott out of New Bern. So having my child, it was an adjustment. And like I said, you can't appreciate the highs or the joys without appreciating or going through the adjustments and the struggles. And it was, for me, it was a struggle. It was an adjustment. I hate to use the word struggle, so I'll use adjustment, but it was, especially when it was time to go back to work, right? So I had to go back to work, and I had a baby, and my work it was a little different. You know, I was still coaching cheerleading full time, and we had nationals about 2 months later after TJ was born. So I really didn't have the time that I should have taken to be out for, you know, on my maternity leave, because I felt like I had to get right back because we had nationals, which we won that year, but we had nationals, you know, that year. So I had to get back. So here I am at nationals with my team and my newborn. And I remember calling my spiritual mom and was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't think I can handle this. That was one thing I said to her. It was hard for me to adjust. It was hard for me to, for my schedule, because it seemed like every time we got ready to go, you know, I pack his stuff the night before and we be ready to go. I got him dressed like we're good. And right before we walk out the house, he want to poop. And I'm not just talking a little poop. I'm talking that poop that goes down the back and the leg and just everywhere, right before we have to walk out the house. So where I was going to be on time, now I'm 15 minutes late to where I had to be. And see, I was never on time for stuff, but I really ain't been on time since I've had my kid now. So, I mean, call it what you like. An excuse, it is what it is. I know Tasha listening, she like, she right. She ain't on time. But I really try. I tried so hard. But since having my child, you know, that was an adjustment, and that scheduling was an adjustment. So, you know, can I tell you that it is an adjustment, but it's an adjustment that can be done. What got me through was thankful for my spiritual mom that I could just pick up the phone and call and cry it out and do what I have to do. And that's okay. You may have to cry it out. You may have to, you know, go have your moment and come back and get yourself together. That postpartum is real. I don't want anybody to tell you that it's not and that it doesn't exist. It is. It is definitely real. But you don't have to stay there. And see, that's what people think. That's what people miss. They think that because it's a part of it and because it's the norm, that I should just, you know, embrace it and just stay there. Okay, embrace it. When I say embrace, I mean recognize it, because you've got to recognize a problem in order to fix it, or you've got to recognize an issue in order to fix it. Yes, it's something common, but that doesn't mean you have to stay in it. I was determined not to stay in my postpartum. I had mine right away. My best friend came from Atlanta the weekend that I had TJ. I had him on that Wednesday, and she was there that Friday with me throughout that entire weekend. And then my sister-in-law came down and stayed the entire week with me the following week. And then my husband's parents came down and they stayed. So we had an amazing support system. But that postpartum was real. My best friend and I have been best friends for over 25 years. We have never had an argument. We've had disagreements, but I always win. But we never had an argument. We've none of that. Never yelled at each other, never hung up on each other, never gone without talking to each other. None of that. That was the first time that I just went off on her when she came down over an issue of breastfeeding, because I didn't want to do it, and she was trying to tell me the importance of it, and I just felt like I was being pushed, and I just went slam off. And I remember I could see her facial expression to this day, like, no, she didn't, just hold up, you know? But she recognized what I was going through. not to say it was an excuse, but she did. And after it was all said and done, we talked about it. But I had my postpartum, but I was determined not to stay there. I would cry and I would get over it because I was determined not to let that overtake me. You have a child, you got to make the adjustments. And I think that's part of that postpartum, trying to figure out how to make these adjustments, how to still go on with life because you have a new life that depends on your every move. He's 2 years old now, but he still depends on mommy and daddy and everything that mommy and daddy can do for him. So that was hard for me. So that's one advice, is not to stay there. You don't have to stay there. Recognize what it is. Get it out. It's okay to cry. The teething moment. I remember when my child was teething. He went through 2 phases of that I can remember like real good in my mind. But the one that I will never forget was my second Mother's Day. He started teething. It was my second year with him for Mother's Day. And that whole weekend, that Friday through Sunday, I promise you, my husband and I got about 4 hours of sleep throughout that whole weekend because we had to take turns, getting up in the middle of the night and just sitting with him. But he cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And can I say that I do understand? Then I didn't. You hear stories all the time about parents harming their children, even killing their children. And I could not understand, like, why would you do that to your child? Now, I know this is probably going to sound horrible, but I am being real, as real can be. I get it. I understand why parents do what they did to harm their child. It is not right in no means whatsoever. But that mindset that you are in at that time, if you can't control that, where your child is just crying and crying and crying, and you've done everything that you can do, and you can't figure out what is wrong, you can go berserk. But you come out of that, first of all, realizing that God is not going to put no more on you than you can handle, right? Our royal empowerment, 1 Corinthians 10:13. I know that, I know I'm probably getting some sideways looks, but it's the truth. Realizing that God is not going to put more on you than you can handle. And realizing that it's just a temporary thing. It may seem like, that teething weekend, it went on forever in our minds, but it was just temporary. And you've got to be, in a mind stable enough to know that, okay, I can put my child down and walk away for a second and come back. That's what you've got to do while your child is crying, as long as he's fed and clothed and diaper is changed and everything is good. If you can sit him down safely and walk away to get your sanity back, do that. Because that's important, getting your sanity back. Do that, right? Because harming a child, there's no excuse. But I understand, the mindset of how they can get in that mindset if you're not wrapped tight, number one, and if you don't realize that you've got to have God to go through this. You have to. He gave it to you, so of course He's going to help you get through it, right? So, and again, remember that it's only temporary. I want to talk about keeping yourself up, moms. I told you how, going to that nail salon that day was the first of many that I wouldn't go and get my nails done when I wanted to. And that is true. Why? Because you just can't take a newborn in the nail salon with you, or even a 2-year-old. He's 2, and I can't just take him up in a nail salon with me. I've got to now find the time to do it. Okay, when is hubby off work? And then I can go slip in and go get my, grooming done and then come back, that type of thing. So you've got to work around that, but you still got to get it done. If you weren't the type to already do that, try it. Go out and pamper yourself. If you've got to take once a month to just do you, do it. Because after all, you still deserve the best for yourself too. And if you don't give yourself the best, then you're not going to be able to give your child the best, right? So you've got to be sure that you are upkeeping yourself. I've got more Speak on the topics next, plus your college spotlight, and our Pink Convo thought is coming up. It's Pink Conversations, Pampers, Teethingn, and College, right here with Tameka Bright. It's Pink Conversations with Tameka Bright on WYTV7, Charlotte, North Carolina. Pampers, Teethingn, and College. This is a motherhood conversation, and it's a real empowerment for motherhood. And I hope you're getting something out of this. I hope you understand that you are not alone. I think that's what got me through, too. Every time I would think, oh, my gosh, I cannot do this. How am I going to go to work? How am I going to, adjust with going to work and having my child and all of this? Because we don't have daycare for him. So that's another adjustment, because we all know daycare is a mortgage, right? That's another topic for another day, right? But so how am I going to adjust with all that? I would think back to, okay, I am not the first mom in this situation. My mother went through it, her mother went through it, and her mother went through it. Like, it's just a generation of things, right? We are not the only ones. So just know that you're not alone out there. You are not alone, whether you have one child or you have 5. You are not alone. And every child is not the same, right? You've got that one, I've got my TJ, and if we decide on the line to, down the line to have another one, because it will be a girl, right? If we decide to have our little girl, it's not going to be the same. Everything that I did with TJ might not work for our next child. So every child is different. But I want to get into our Speak On It topic. So the topic was, you just wrote a book about motherhood. Name a chapter that you would write. Free to be me, Felika T from Fayetteville wrote, don't stress, enjoy every moment. Miss Michelle from down in Spring Lake, she wrote, OMG, it's puberty. She said she could write a whole novel on something like this. Amber Baton from Richmond, Virginia, she wrote from the point of view of babysitting. She doesn't have a child, but she said from babysitting, I could write one called The Reasons I'm Never Having a Kid. And I thought that was so funny, because my cheerleaders would always say that when, I'd be like, can you watch TJ for a couple of hours? And they watch him, and they'd be like, between him and my other coach's son, Colton, they'd be like, they are the best form of birth control ever. So Melissa Jean, she said, listen while I sing you the song of my people. Whining. And Miss Toy Jenkins from out there in Vanceboro, she said, the pain before labor. Good answers, guys. Thank you so much for answering on our topics for today. Our Speak On It topic, you answered, or I asked and you answered, and I do appreciate that. So babies, remember, they don't come with manuals. Remember I told you I was doing, getting all this stuff from the baby shower, but I didn't find a manual. I didn't find that. So because it doesn't come with one. You just kind of on your own there. You just got to figure it out. I always used to say with my kid, like, he was trial and error. I used to say that all the time. Like, he was like my guinea pig, and he still is, because this is my first one right now. So that's my guinea pig. Let's just try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, okay. Taking advice from others can be a good and a bad thing, because remember I told you that everybody's kid is not the same. And so, what may have worked for someone may not work for you. But that doesn't mean that you don't listen and take the advice. I got a lot of advice. Some things I took and some things I didn't. Because it worked for you, it may not work for me. The best advice you can get is the one that God gives you. So you definitely need to pray about it. Pray about every aspect. That's how I've gotten through these last 2 years, is praying every little thing. When he, has his tantrums, or when he has his spells, or whatever it is, it's praying, God, help me get through this. Help me, equip me with what I need so that I can make sure I get through this. That's important. You need that. If you can't say that prayer, for me, it wouldn't work without saying that prayer. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to pray about every little thing, to ask God to go with you in every aspect of raising a child. He's the only one that can do it for you, right? Our college spotlight today is coming from University of Georgia. It is in Athens, Georgia. And if you guys know, I'm actually a big fan of this school. And so I wanted to do it as my college spotlight. It is a good school with cheerleading, so I'm happy about that. You know that, right? But it's in Athens, Georgia. The acceptance rate is about 53%, and it is in-state tuition about $9,000 and out-of-state tuition about $27,000. And they are the Bulldogs, and their colors are red and black, and they are a Division I school. So our college spotlight is University of Georgia down in Athens, Georgia. Stick around. I've got my Pink Convo Thought, which is some good advice for you, coming up next. You're listening to Pink Conversations, Pampers, Teethingn, and College. Welcome back to Pink Conversations. It's time for our Pink Convo thought. Having a child and having the responsibilities of being a mom is a true gift from God. Children, babies, they're not a mistake. Now, they may not have been planned, but they do have a purpose, and we're part of that purpose, and it's a part of God's plan. So cherish, embrace, and hold on to every moment with your child, because before you know it, they'll be in college, they'll be married, and then they'll be out of your lives, but never your heart. So always remember that. Thank you for tuning in to Pink Conversations with me, Tameka Bright. Email me, spiritandsparkle16 at gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts on the show. Give me some, I need some college spotlights. Give me your college spotlights. You want me to shout out your college. I just appreciate you for listening. Be sure to tune in next week, Monday, 2 p.m., same time. You're going to enjoy our next week topic as well. Remember to stay purpose-driven and passion-focused.